Hey John, to everyone listening, this is John Lenhart, and John is one of the smartest people I've ever met. He's taught me so much. John is, in my mind, a revolutionary and a rebel, which is wonderful. Um, when it comes to so many topics in life, love, marriage, God, um, the John obviously comes from a Christian background. I come from a Jewish background, and you know, I can't like, and I deep in Jewish history for the night. So many times where John would tell me something and I would be like, that's like written thousands of years ago in mystical text. Like, how did you figure that out? Like, where did that come from? And it's just those conversations were mind blowing. So thank you so much for talking, John.
No, thank you for having me. I always enjoy talking with you. I always learn something too, so that's what I really enjoy.
Yeah. I'm glad we're having fun. So this topic was, and maybe we'll do more of these because there's so many topics. I would love to do more stuff around God and stuff like that as well. But this one is specifically about dreams. You spoke to me a while ago about how to think about dreams, approach dreams, decode dreams, and I remember once even sharing one of my dreams with you, and your ability to open it up to me was just I was blown away. So I guess, and so I really wanted to share, to really get deep into that with you today. So I guess the first question I would ask you is, what is your definition of a dream?
Nice, great question. So I will say this. I'm sure people will, if they start watching this and think about dreams, they're gonna sit there and go, "Oh, I interpret dreams, or I do this with dreams." And I know a lot of people, they even have courses in this. But the thing is all of that stuff is very analytical. It's very, what is this symbolism? What is that? What is this symbolism? And as you know, my approach is always backwards. I always take the backwards approach. I look at the bigger system. And the first step in the bigger system is to have the definition. So really, a dream is basically a hallucination while you're asleep. And the reason why that's important is because a vision is a hallucination while you're awake. To the brain, there is no difference between a dream and these visions that people had in the Bible. There is no difference between a dream and a vision other than the fact the person's awake or asleep. They're the same thing.
So then what is a vision? How would you define a vision?
So I would say a vision is seeing into the spiritual realm.
Okay. So then a dream is our window into the spiritual realm.
So it's a possible window into spiritual realm. And so that's where I think when I told you this before, my approach is a little different, is that there's really three types of dreams. And I'm going to preface this all by saying I have a model for the mind and brain. It's non-contradictory. I believe it's the only model there is. I've shared half of that model. I had hoped to share all of that model by this time in life, but we're still working on that first half, helping people understand it. The entire second half of the model has to do with sleep. And so I'm going to kind of talk a little bit about some of these things and then not talk about certain things because there's parts of the model that we haven't I have just haven't shared. I will tell you this. There's six benefits to sleep, and four of them you can get from flow. Your rabbi flow. There's four of them you can get from flow. You can't you can't get all of the benefits of sleep from flow. But that's why some people, when they get in really, high flow states, they might go a week with 5 hours of sleep. It's because they still need those other two of those six aspects. So I'm not going to get into all that, but I just want to let you know that there's a
Yeah, no,
there's a
that is,
whole.
it's very interesting because when I was a student here in Israel, I done all day long. I didn't want to sleep. teacher was like, you got to sleep, you're not sleeping enough. And he told me that there could come a time in life when you're a bit more relaxed and chilled out, and then you can get away with less sleep. And I've been realizing recently, because I've noticed over the past year or so that I'm functioning on less, like when I get less sleep, I am functioning at a level that is beyond where I used to. And I think it is a lot because that is just as that flow state, as you get more into flow, it's like your brain isn't like grinding through the day like a gear that's like rubbing against a gear. It's just you're just flying. And so there's less resistance, and so it's like I feel I'm regenerating all the time in energy. Like
It is the regenerating thing, and again, flow is toggling between your conscious and unconscious. I like to say, how would you stand on hot sand barefooted? You would rock back and forth off of each foot. And that's what's happening in your brain. When you're not flowing, you're planting those feet on the hot sand and burning them out. So that's a proof that you're flowing is that you don't need as much sleep and you're operating at a high level. So I wanted to say all that. So that's kind of my background. That's the bigger picture. So when you look at what's happening with dreaming, there's three reasons why we dream, which imply there's three types of dreams. So we kind of talked about the first dream, which is there are prophetic or revelatory dreams or dreams where you are seeing into that spiritual realm. And in the book of Job, it says God speaks to people through the weather and through dreams. So, and Joseph and Daniel are two of my favorite characters. They're both administrative teachers like me. So, and they both were good at interpreting dreams. So I really like that. But that's where you can have those moments. So if you have a dream and it feels different, more vivid and different and doesn't follow the format of what I'm going to talk about next, then I write them down. I would absolutely write them down because what happens is that having the exact wording and the exact imagery of that dream becomes important because later when things start happening, are you going to remember every little piece? So the key thing to realize about our brains is we have like this projector in our brain and it feeds out images based on words. So when you tell a story, there's a very, very famous story about when people take a course in um, learning how to be a witness for criminology and stuff and deal with witnesses. They'll have somebody come in during the class and take something from the front desk, and then the teacher will say, take out a sheet of paper, write down exactly what happened specifically. And so everybody will write down what they consciously saw, and then what they didn't see consciously, their unconscious will tell them. And that's where racism and things happen. Is like if in the movies I always see a certain race stealing stuff, I didn't see the person, I'm gonna say it was a certain race. Then what they do is they pick somebody, a plant, to tell their version in front of everybody. And that person intentionally tells a wrong version. And half the people change their answer and go, yeah, I see it. So that's where the suggestion comes in. It's like I didn't consciously see the person, but you said this. I fed it through that thing. I now see it. Yes, it happened. I saw it. The reason you think you saw it is you fed those person's words through that projector and you think you see it. And then they find out it wasn't that person at all. And that's the point of the classes to teach you. So your brain works that way. So the second type of dream, what's happening is when you're sleeping, your body's cycling. So you have these cycles every 45 minutes to hour and a half. And you'll know your cycles. If you wake up every hour exactly, you're actually waking up all night long during those cycles. And then you're just rolling back into sleep. And so what I do is some people say, when I wake up, I can't fall back asleep. I have them rehearse. First of all, I teach them what I just said, and I have them rehearse that when you wake up, you do that anyways. Don't get conscious. Don't have more than one thought. Relax, focus on one thing, and let the momentum take you back into sleep. If you wake up and then you start thinking you're going to be up. Your conscious brain's kicking in, but you want to roll into it. Well, while your brain is cycling, what it's doing is it's taking stuff from your short-term memory that you've processed and uploading it to your long-term memory. So one of the things is they say if you don't dream, you can't keep things in your long-term memory. So it's really important to dream because part of the process of dreaming makes things go from short-term to long-term, but only things that you process. So I could take in a lot of things in my short-term memory, but what I process with you now goes to a staging area. And then when I sleep, that gets uploaded to long term. The other thing doesn't. And after 72 hours, this stuff burns away. So it's really important to process stuff with people if we want to keep it long term. So now what's happening is as our brain is uploading this information, it's like we tap in and we catch a word. And then we make a story out of that word. And then we get another word, and it's usually 3 words. So when people talk, and this is what happened with you. When people tell me their dream, they usually tell me like it'll be a continuous dream, but there's 2 points where the dream changes. And so when I'm listening to a dream, there's this setting, and then all of a sudden there's this setting, and then all of a sudden there's this setting. And so what I do is I hear a dream all the way through and I kind of write some notes. And then I want to hear it a second time because I know where the breaks are. And I treat each setting like, what's the word that you heard to create this scenario? That's what's really going on is you heard this word and then that word fed in and you got an image. And now you built a story around that image. So what happens is our brain works to completion. I like to say, if you stare across the room at a desk or furniture, a couch, is there a wall behind that couch, right behind it? And you go, yeah. Do you see it? No. Then you don't know for sure. But your brain fills it in. Our brain always is filling everything in. So when it gets a word and it gets an image, your brain goes, oh, let's fill in the rest of the story. This is how you could have a dream and go, I dreamt about an elephant and a marshmallow, and I know that this doesn't make any sense now, but in my dream, it made a lot of sense. Well, that's your brain trying to make everything make sense. So you've tapped in to 3 words. Your brain is trying to make those words make sense, and it's building a story around it, really from your experience. And what I've found is those 3 things tend to be past, present, and future, or future, present, and past. I think that's what it was with you. It's like, look at the theme that ran through there is this thing you're thinking about relative to when you were a kid, what's happening now, and where you want to be. And so really what's going on is our brain is picking up a word, making a story out of it, and then picking up another word, making a story, then picking up another word, making a story, and then we wake up. A lot of times people will tell me 2 parts of the story, and I'll go, man, it's like there's a third part of this dream that's missing. Did you wake up right when this thing happened, or is this the first thing you remember? And they'll go, no, I think there was and I can help them kind of bring that back out and they'll start doing that. So that's what'll happen is
So,
normally when you listen to people's dreams, there's 3 parts to every dream.
okay, so let's backtrack, and I want to make sure I really understand, whoever's listening to really understand, because this is next level. This is beyond like the conventional wisdom that's out there, and it's so
Right.
deep. Um, that you said was the second part of the dream, like the second part of dreaming. What was the first
Sec
one?
so the first type of dreaming is prophetic.
Okay,
Like you can have a prophetic dream.
okay. It
So
just
like I'll tell you, I had my first child was blonde hair girl, and my second child I thought was gonna be a boy. I was hoping for a boy. And I was telling people it's gonna be a boy, and I had a dream. and there was this baby boy in the background on a blanket that I knew was mine. And then there was this girl, brown hair, brown eyes, you know, darker complexion, saying, "Daddy, do you still love me?" And I'm like, we're having a girl, and I can tell you exactly what she looks like. And it's exactly what we had. And then I had a boy third. And in fact, that exact thing happened. And I had that dream in a totally different house. I was in the house and I was sitting on this couch and my daughter's right here and my son was in the blanket right back there, the exact same thing. But that was, how's that happen?
Wow. So, okay. And just to backtrack even further with the definition, if a vision is a portal into the spiritual that happens when we're awake, a dream is that portal when we're sleeping.
It can be that portal,
It
but it
can
is
be.
that portal
And that's
in that you're going to another place. You are everything in your body says you're going to this other place and you're experiencing this thing. It's real, that's
right.
not real.
What I'm hearing is that the prophetic part, it's more the download. You're getting a
Yes.
download from something that will happen. But
Yes.
what I'm hearing about the second thing is that it's an upload.
It's
It's an
if you think about it,
upload.
I like what you said, download. I think I well, first of all, it's downloading. You could say either way, but really you're downloading a word out of the stream. So
Right,
I still like the
right.
word download. That's
Well,
really
I
works
think,
well.
well, you're telling me you're going from short term to long term, and you're
Your
telling me
body is. Your body
your
is.
body's taking you've experienced in your life that day and bringing it from short term to long term. So bringing taking everything I've learned and I'm trying to like understand it through that lens. And what I'm hearing is something very deep, which is that this upload of three words and the stories around them, and the reason why is because this is us in the past, present, and future. What that seems to me to be is that when a person goes to sleep, the question that their brain needs to answer is, how did this day bring me closer to my purpose in my life? How do I process this day in a way that's in alignment with my soul's mission in this world? And that's through the dream, and it's through um being able to take what I went through the day, three things that happened to me, and to see how part of it was my past, part of it my present, and another part of it is who I'm going to be in the future.
So if we're going to get real deep here, the thing that I've always said is, so first of all, I think what's really happening is that,
Am I hearing you or am I making something
well,
else?
well, no, I think you're taking a little deeper than I want to take even deeper, but I want to go back to clarify this. Is our brain works in stories. So you give it a word, it creates a story. You give it another word, it wants to create a story. Sometimes it can't just do it. So that's where the scene will shift. But past, present, future is an overarching arc. So our brain is now taking that second story and adjusting it to past, present, future, and then that third. So it's our brain is doing that. Now, what I say to people is everybody has a religion. And everybody's religion is their answer to these three questions because your unconscious is constantly pushing you to answer these three questions. And it fits with what you just said is how did I get here? Which is a past question. What am I going to do while I'm here? Which is a present question. And what happens after I'm here? Which is a future question. That's the three questions everybody's answering. Their unconscious is pushing them to. And your answer to that is your real religion. So even when people say they're not religious, it's like we all have a religion. And it's because our unconscious wants to know the answers to those questions. And we consciously have to show it what our answers are. And so
You,
that's where I think what you're talking about, like, what happened today. Like I like what you just said because it's like at the end of the day, what did I do today that's consistent with why I'm here and what's going to happen and what am I going to do while I'm here? Well, how was that consistent? And I think our unconscious could just beat on us to get that answer.
You know, it's it reminds me of and you love definitions, so I know that you'll love this. So the previous Rebbe of Chabad, so he passed away in 1950. Fearless man, fought the entire communist regime fearlessly.
You
And
told me about him. Yeah.
so he said so he gave definitions for all forms of life, mineral, vegetable, animal, and human. He said the definition of the mineral is that it is what it is. It just is. The definition of the vegetable is that it grows. It wants to be bigger. The definition of animal is that it enjoys its life and it will fight for its preservation. It will fight to survive. And the definition of human is that it needs to be more than what it is.
Beautiful. Minerals can't be destroyed or create, they are what they are. I love that definition of the minerals. I love all of them, but that makes so much sense.
And that's the core of what spirituality is. Like people say, I
Yeah.
don't believe in God, I'm not spiritual, but like you must be orienting your life around some kind of a guiding principle. That is your spirituality. That is what you believe in. That is your faith.
Right.
Um, one of my teachers said it once someone came up to him and said, "I believe in God." He said, "Well, what is God?" He said, "I don't know." So then how do you know what it is that you're not believing in? So how do you know? He's like, "You're right, I don't."
Yeah, yeah. Well, again, I wrote a book about it kind of that. So I want to talk about the third one. Make sure we get through this. So the third one is what I call a rehearsal dream. And so you could say God gives you these dreams. You could say your unconscious gives you these dreams. Either way, but if you've seen the movie The Matrix, this is kind of a Matrix situation where Neo goes into the sparring program to fight Morpheus, to practice fighting Morpheus. And so the thing is that people have these dreams, and these are the ones I have the most fun helping people with, honestly, because they'll come to me and go, okay, you got to explain this to me. And they'll be in a situation where they have to handle some sort of conflict and it goes bad. And so what I explain to them is to you, that's real. And that's how you'd really handle it. But you didn't have to handle it in the real world and do something unjust and have justice or karma against you. So you did it in the matrix. You did it as a practice and you found out something about yourself. Holy moly, if that person walks up to me, I'm going to take a swing at him. I didn't even know I felt that way. So they're like, oh, so what do I do about it? I'm like, well, this gets back to rehearsal. So because that's a real event to you, just like I would help people rehearse a real event, how do you want to handle that person walking up to you? You figure out how you want to approach it, and then you rehearse it 3 times. You go, they walk up to me, I do this, it goes like this, and you do it 3 times, and then the dream comes up, and you handle it. And then I say, the other thing I tell people is, it sounds like you need to get ready for something to happen because this is practice because something's going to happen in the real world. And then that's what tends to happen is people rehearse it, then they have the dream again, and they're going to keep having a dream. Especially when people say, I keep having the same dream. I'm like, rehearsal dream. Have you practiced how to respond to that? I had a dream where this pastor walked up to me. He had done some really horrible things, and I killed him in the dream. He walked up to me and I killed him, beat him up and killed him. And I went, okay, that's not good. So I rehearsed, you know, giving him a hug. So he walks up to the dream, I give him a hug, and he starts beating me up. So I killed him. So then I'm like, okay, I gotta rehearse this guy beating me up and me still giving him a hug. And so I rehearsed that, and then yeah, it happened. So it's so those are the 3 types
In
of
real
dreams.
life, you saw him and you gave him a hug.
In real life, I ended up having a meeting with him, and I was just very calm, and I was just very factual, and I said, here's what I did wrong, and here's what I could have done better, and I was just really gracious the whole time. It was interesting. He didn't say a single word. That made me feel like, you know what? I don't think he even followed his rehearsal dreams because I came out of that way ahead on justice. I had gotten everything out in the open and admitted the mistakes I made and felt good about it and moved on with my life. He absolutely never admitted to anything.
Wow. So, that almost sounds like what's the so it's that is almost I would say it's similar to prophetic, but it's a little bit different in the sense that it's requires more effort and action on your part.
It is similar that way, and you could say, God can give you that dream, but your unconscious also give you that dream because your unconscious is aware of things happening and going, "Hey, this is going to happen." When people go, "Oh, I sense that I'm going to end up talking to that person," it's like your unconscious is telling you that.
Right.
And it gets
Just
back to
kind
the
of
somatic, the stuff you're so good at, the stuff that we originally met over, is that how well are you know your unconscious brain's unique way to talk to you through feelings throughout your body.
right. So, I mean, this really is a portal because it means that we have a built-in capacity to, at certain special times in life, feel like God is talking to us.
Oh, absolutely.
Um, it's also a way to um figure out where we are spiritually in life in terms of where we've been, where we are, and where we're going. And it also
Inventory, spiritual inventory.
is, in a way a class of being prepared for what's to come. I mean, it's everything that you'd want in a teacher, you know?
Yeah. And it's really from taking that big picture. I know people like to get into like, this thing symbolizes this and this thing symbolizes that. And it's like, yeah, I think you're missing what you just said. I love the way you just summarized that. You could be taking this class, this life class, like existential class, really.
So so how so first thing we have to do, I mean, so in order to go, I mean, this sounds like if you know how to okay, so that's what it is. That's the definition of what it is and the potential of what it can do. But I think that this clearly requires the person who is dreaming to to put some effort and work into maximizing this to its potential. So what does that look like?
So the first thing is to have a journal next to your bed because what happens is you can practice remembering your dreams and it is like a muscle. So you want to write down as much as you can remember. I will say also to say it. There's a lot of times that people when they sit to write something down, they're like, I can't, and I say just say some word. Like if I had a dream where I was in a casino, but that casino wasn't really part of it, it was all this other stuff happening. Just saying the word casino allows me to like poke through to that, and then it's like, oh, this guy came in and did, and it's like, and then I'm able to write it. So a lot of times, just saying that word associated with it kind of breaks the seal and allows you to get all these thoughts into words. But that's one of the frustrating things is people they have it in their head and they want to get it like exactly right. You don't need to get it exactly right. You just need to get it out because once you get it out, you can go back into the dream. A lot of times I do that with people. Like my one of my biggest questions I'll always ask people is when you woke up, how'd you feel? And how did it resolve? And people go, I don't know. I'll say, okay, let's go back over the dream. And you talk back over the dream at the end and say, okay, now how do you think that would resolve? because you kind of prime the brain down this track and the unconscious, and you're saying it unconsciously. The unconscious will give them the answer. They'll go, I feel like this and this would have happened. So it is documenting. Like when I read that passage in Job, I'm like, man, if God is talking to us in our dreams and doing it, I think your explanation was even better and bigger. Why aren't I writing them down? So I should be writing them down. So that's what I do is every morning I'm writing them down and keeping track of them because it is like you say, it's teaching me more about my life and where I'm going, and it's giving me a lot more settled feeling.
So the idea here is to write them down, and when our memory is foggy of what it is, start with whatever you got. Start with
Speak whatever you got. Say one
speak
word.
whatever you got,
Say one
and
word attached to it.
and also if you can't pay attention to how you feel and just try to with saying the word and paying attention to how it feels, see if you can re-enter the scene,
Yep.
you
Because
know.
it's a real event. It's a real event to you when you have a real memory. It's just gonna disappear again without processing it. It's gonna disappear.
Yeah. Um, okay. So now we have something written that we have saved, and it might not be everything, but we have some stuff. Then what do we do?
So I think really, I mean, it's great to have that on track and review it every once in a while. But what tends to happen is you really do that to get better at doing that. And most of the dreams is that second dream. Most of the time, you're dreaming that second dream, which is your brain is just processing through, using a word in relation to what you're dealing with to process through something, and you'll have a better understanding of where you are at in life and how that is going. So that's really good. Um, but it also helps you when you have the other two dreams, like it's going to make an impact and you're really going to learn from it. And those are the real opportunities. I think those are the ones that people like get really frustrated when they miss out on, or they keep having the same dream over and over again with the rehearsal. But to write that down and to process it, I think it's nothing. I don't know that it's anything you could necessarily point to, but what you're going to notice is you're just going to start being a lot more resilient, and you're going to be a lot more, control and calm because it's all your unconscious. Your unconscious is the thing that's pressing on you because you're not sharing with people, or it doesn't know what you think. And so people think all their problems are everybody else. All your problems is your unconscious trying to do what it takes to find out what's going on. When you start writing, when you start journaling this, your unconscious is going to start being more for you. And I think you're going to start learning a little more. And this is where again, you were the expert, is learning more how your unconscious wants to talk to you even throughout the day. And you're going to be more creative.
Yeah, I think what you're saying here is really, it's really so vital, which is that, and it happens in relationships. You know, a husband might think that his wife is fighting him and hates him, but it's not that she wants to fight him. It's not that she hates him. It's that she doesn't feel like he listens. When she feels like he listens, then they're on the same team. And so in a way, it's like our conscious mind is that if we're not listening to it, it becomes this voice in our head that to us, it's almost like criticizing us and saying we're not good enough and pointing a finger. But it's like it's frustrated because it's like there to teach us and to guide us to our purpose, and we're not listening.
And it
So,
thinks it has all the answers. It kind of does have it has all these answers that we're just not tapping into. That's again, like I said, what you did with the somatic stuff is you're helping people be super conscious. I like to say when the unconscious is smarter than your conscious. So I like to say a lot of times it's the super conscious.
yeah, I think something I would like to do in a follow-up to this is I'm really gonna put myself on the spot here because I think this is gonna be really fascinating. Let me know if you want, if you'd be willing to do this, but record my dreams for a certain period of time and tell you how I interpreted them, and then ask you, how would you interpret this? For a couple of dreams, like on another call, and I want, I really feel like I want there to be something taught where it's, because I remember I had a dream, and the dream seemed meaningless, and when you helped me, I am not remembering details, but I just remember what I felt like, and it was like a, oh my goodness. Um, so I would love to do that.
Yeah, so I would like to do it too because I think again it gets back to storytelling. I think a big part of what I do is I know the brain works according to stories. So that's what I'm doing is I'm hearing all this information and I'm framing it in a story. And then the stories is what really hits people.
Yeah, this is exciting. Really, really, really exciting. Um, so anything more on that, or that's it? That's
No,
really,
that's it. I love your summary. Can't wait to watch this and write this back down to exactly the way you said it. But I love what you said about the best teacher, the best class you could take. This is great. Thank you.
the thing froze. What did you say? You love
I
what I said.
said I said I really like how you framed it to the best teacher you can have, the best class. So thank you for teaching me that. Can't wait to watch this. I
You're
think there
welcome.
was some other parts that were fuzzy. We'll see how this turns out.
Yeah. There was two dreams I've had where my spiritual mentor came to me in the dreams. Which is like a big event in our tradition. Like if you dream about a Rebbe, it's, they say that you cannot dream about him unless he's agreed to come. So
Okay.
it's always something. So the first one was around back in 2018 or 19. I had a dream where I saw him do somatic work very quickly with a hug on a 15, 16-year-old boy with cerebral palsy whose movement returned to absolutely healthy and normal, like immediately after that hug. And what was unique about that dream was it played twice, exactly the same dream.
Nice.
Like the dream, rewind, play again, immediately run after the other. Um, and that to me was in a way a rehearsal dream, or a sign of like the work that I was going to get into, because
In
a
the
little,
Old Testament, when it's God, he always says the name twice, or he always does it twice. So
yeah,
that's the rewind thing makes me feel like it's prophetic. It's God showing you, look at this is, and now knowing what you do, that's man,
yeah, it
that sounds
was,
like a origin story for the work you do.
yeah, it was a year after, but within the year after that I found a somatic therapist who I worked with, and then a year after that I started doing this work.
Amazing.
It was
Absolutely amazing.
the other happened this year, and this was wild. In my community here, there's a family that has two boys with Down syndrome. And so I had a dream over the holidays this past year. So it was back around October time that again I saw the Rebbe, and he said that soon we're going to understand what these boys, soon these boys are going to talk to us. Um, the Rebbe always said about these children that the reason why they are the way they are is because they're operating on a spiritual level. He would say that they're his soldiers. Children with Down syndrome or autism, they're like, they're talking to God all the time, which is why they're not talking to us. So, so I woke up and I was late to go to synagogue, so I rushed out. I didn't tell my wife about the dream. And then when I go to synagogue, there's a park outside, and in the park outside, and this never happened before and never happened since, I see the mother of those two boys watching them as one of them is playing in the park with his cousin. So I had the dream about them, and then they're there in front of me right before I get to synagogue. So I'm like, okay, this is interesting. So I go over and I talk to her, and I'm not, I realize I'm not sharing with her the dream before I first told my wife, but let me just talk to her and see what's going on over here because this is weird. So I talk to her and we just strike up a conversation, and this boy is playing with his cousin. One of her boys is playing with the cousin. The cousin also has Down syndrome. And she all of a sudden out of nowhere tells me that these kids have a language of their own that we don't understand.
That's wild, isn't it? That is absolutely wild.
It gets better. It gets better.
Okay.
So now I'm like, this is crazy. So I have to go to synagogue and she has to go. So I smile and I said, we're going to talk more later. When I told that to her, she had no idea what I was talking about. She told me later, like, when you told me that, like, I was like, what? But like, okay, whatever. So I go to synagogue, come home. I tell this to my wife and I say, we got to go over to their family and tell them about this dream because this is unreal. Um, what was interesting to me is that when I had the dream, what it felt like to me was that the Rebbe was telling me that these boys are going to start talking like us. But when the mother told me that they have their own language, I suspected that what the Rebbe was really telling me was that soon we're going to be up on their level. Like our spirituality will raise to a point where we're more vibrating on their frequency. So I had two possible interpretations of what that dream was saying. But when I heard her say what she said, I was leaning towards the second. Anyways, we go over there, we tell them the dream, and to the family, it meant a lot to them to hear that. I mean, they also,
Absolutely.
and it was just like to, now here's the part of it that's wild. Couple weeks later, I see the father in synagogue, and he says, "You're not going to believe this. They have two downs, and one is much severe. The other one is more like functioning and, goes to school, like we can go to school with, kids that are not, but the other one is like completely in his own world." He said, "You're not going to believe this, but for the first time ever, my son put four words together in a sentence and is making more eye contact than he's ever had before, ever done before." And I was like, wow.
Amazing.
Uh,
Yep. That's the type of stuff that this is the type of stuff people bring to me all the time, and it's they all know where to find me, that's for sure. So thank you for sharing that. That's amazing.
yeah. Okay, John, thank you so much for doing this. I'm really looking forward to the sequel.
Me too.